He wants to restore your childhood dreams. It's time for us to dare to dream again. And our prayer needs to be, God, let your kingdom come. And let your will be done in me as it is in heaven. He wants to heal the brokenheartedness of your life and take you out of the path you've been on and put you back on the path that he has for your life. Please hear me. I am anointed to tell you your past is pardoned.
Big up yourself, man. It's the Steve McKinney Show on Bahamas Live.
Yeah, man, put on your thinking caps, man.
Give it up.
Feel him in the one drop. Still got time to rock. You pick up your telephone. We all go to the throne. Steve McKinney bringing us, fighting against the system, taking a better way. As we struggle day by day, singing, I know Jah never let us down. Oh no, talking with God. I know Jah never let us down. Oh no, look at him. They make the world so hard, so hard. You got people fighting. They make the world so cold. Every day, people are dying. Dread, hunger, starvation, limitation. Read it in Revelation. You'll find your redemptions. You can give us the teachings of His Majesty. We don't want no devil philosophy. Tell him, Steve, give us Bahamas alive. We don't want no devil philosophy.
Well, good afternoon, one and all. It's 21 minutes behind the hour of 5 o'clock. Good afternoon, all. This is Steve McKinney. And, of course, today we present you with the Hard Copy Show. 325-02-3516, 325-02-4243, 325.
And we're on the replay.
What's up in Texas?
The Bahamas #1 pastime talk show, 107.5, with host Mr. Steve McKinney. It's going to be an awesome show today. Hope you all enjoy it.
Get us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Like
Hard Copy Bahamas.
we enjoy bringing it to you.
Today I've got with me John Bostwick. And
Today,
of course,
this is
we've
a
got
special
things to talk about
day
today.
for me.
In particular, two very important
But
things
because
that
I
we
get
believe
to
that you have on your agenda.
be a blessing
just because you've been driving
to this
down
awesome
West Street,
gentleman
right? And you're driving
and
down and you see on the right, you
his
say,
company,
what is this big building,
the
4 stories, 5 stories, 6 stories
advertisers,
high. What
those
is
who
this?
advertise with him.
Some people say some atrocity.
Those
See,
of
that's
us
what it is.
who enjoy
And the Chinese are building it.
bringing
And everybody say the Chinese, but when did they get permission to build
the
this?
Bahamian culture to the world
And somebody brought up something from the past and say, boy, you know,
in this modern day and
remember them
time.
things
If
that
it's a
happened
privilege,
that
it's a
time?
pleasure.
They all
So I
have
invite everyone to
say the stuff happening
listen in to this
on the
show
Cuban Beach Strip,
with
the
Mr.
Bahama Project,
Sovereign Brother
and all that and all this.
Stephen
And say, oh, you
McKinney
remember when
and
those
his Hard
guys
Copy
decided
show.
that they were going to give the point a view to make sure that the Chinese would build this building, and they were going to take back all this seabed. You remember that? All the seabed and all that ocean out there in the heart of the harbor where the boats come and turn around and berth and all that. And we said, if that's what they want, give it to them. That's what the people actually said, you know. If that's what we want, we'll give it to them. And so they gave it to them. Now, who's they? The PLP was the ones who decided that they were going to get this whole thing, and they cut this deal, this This is the Perry Christie administration, not blaming them. This is what happened. And they gave away the seabed. All that seabed out there in the heart of the harbor, where the ships turn around, where they go down and they berth every time around they come to the Bahamas. That's what they gave them. They gave them all that property out there. All the historic sites. And the Chinese say, yes, very good, very good, very good. Say, we love Prime Minister Perry. We love him. That's what they did. And so today, we are right now smack dab in the middle of something where we don't know if it's going to be sunshiny day or what, because no matter if the weather is perfect blue, with blue skies, you see shadows throughout the entire area on West Bay Street. And if you're driving that way now, going home in traffic, you see what I'm talking about. 6 stories high. That is just the beginning. They ain't really touched the thing yet. There's 6 stories high. That's going to go up 11 stories high, for crying out loud. And John and Steve was right here talking about this thing some years later, because it was John and Steve who decided that we were going to talk about this in its entirety when it first happened. We missed an opportunity when it first happened. I should say I missed it more so than John. John was right here willing to do and able to do it. And something happened that we did not get to talk about this, to the most part, where the people were complaining. We knew that, and nothing really happened to prevent these fellas, the Chinese, from going into that site and developing that site. And now it's now come a long way. A lot of people see the building and they say, boy, this is a fantastic building. Well, they're going to put all these nice spaces over here for Bahamians to do business with. And so how come no one really told us? But we did tell you. You were not paying attention. And we are telling you again today because there's some certain revelations that we can talk about today that will make you think. Imagine now the Chinese have built this building. They're going up 11 stories high. Now, you need to know something. This remains one of the grandest buildings on New Providence. It's grand. 11 stories high. And it covers a serious bit of acreage. Not only that, never mind the little people out there who are going to be run off the beach and all that. Don't worry yourself about that, because that doesn't seem to be too important to the politicians of old and the politicians of the day. Never mind that Flowers building, that big, beautiful building that had all the nice vistas and everything else and the beautiful grass. I think that's Bermuda grass, they call that. Bermuda grass. That's what we used to call it when we were small, Bermuda grass. Well, that's going to be outdone. The sun is not going to hit that grass at all. I believe it will kill that grass. I'm going to check with my son, who's understanding all that part of the business and the farming business, and he can tell me later on today if that's going to kill that grass. But the point is, nothing much is going to happen along that particular part of the scene. You've got to be concerned about that, even though we are crying about it now when it's almost even too late, because the point is this building is going up. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that Minister and them can do about it. And even if they could have done something about it, the people already told Minister and them long time ago, man, you all sell out this country long time ago. You're making all kind of deals with the Chinese and all that. There's nothing that can be done about it. We are stuck with that Chinese building, and we better hope it's going to be very successful. Of course, a lot of Bahamian business people are in the area, congregating and looking at and picking out their stall and where they want to be in the operations of that big Chinese restaurant. I'm told that all kind of jobs are going to be around there, and thousands of Bahamians are going to be hired. That's what I'm told. And I say, well, that's good if that's what you're looking for, jobs, but are you looking for ownership? All of these things come into point, and it's very, very important in the full scheme of things in the Bahamas. If we want to be owners, we can do that, but can we really do that? So today we're going to have John come in with us today and talk a little bit about this whole project, the Big Point. That's what they call it, the Big Point, P-O-I-N-T-E, point. and John is going to be here with me for the most part today. 28 past the hour, 5 o'clock now. Good afternoon, all. This is Steve McKinney, and really, we've got a lot of things to talk about. Right, John?
Most definitely, Steve. Most definitely, and thank you for allowing me here with you again.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
In the continuance of the Friday tradition. Hello to the Bahamas. Godspeed, God protection to you all. Always a pleasure to have the privilege to talk to you and talk with you.
So, John, I'm sure that you've seen the Point. I'm sure that you've seen this building called the Point.
Steve, I almost live in the shadow.
What do you make of this whole thing?
I almost live in the shadow of the Point. And a 23-year resident of downtown Nassau. And so that whole area is like I say, where I live, and that beach is where I walk and exercise my dogs.
You used to walk?
No, I still do. And because sadly, this has been coming. When I say that,
boy, don't we know it.
This has been coming, and it is very much a part of my kind of personal story because it is a neighborhood. So it would have started from the days when the drum beat was still there. Okay, so some people might not know when I say the drum beat is Peanuts Taylor, the last of its kind native nightclub with a full native live show, and Peanuts Taylor being one of the most famous Bahamian musicians, virtuosos, actually a doctorate in percussion.
You went down to Cuba and got that whole thing.
Yeah, having played in the Cotton Club, multiple times. So
was on television so many times in the early days.
All of the Dick Van Dyke show.
That's right.
All of these things, and famous for having the talking drum, the drum that could sing a song. So a landmark facility, tourist attraction such as the Drum Beat Club was on that site, along with the hotel house office and the office of the former Prime Minister, Sir Lyndon Pinland, and then more importantly, I think for me, and that's modern history. Okay, that's modern history. More importantly, it was, and I have to now say it was the site of what I would say our most important fort, Fort Nassau. Or the ruins thereof. And that was one of the tragedies of the Bahamas. And the tragedies of the Pinling era was the failure to maintain our colonial and pre-colonial historical sites. And I think that's a tragedy. And I think in some senses it was purposeful. It was to turn back on all things European.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was very short-sighted, incredibly myopic.
And one of the interesting things, to point here, John, is that later on in our history, we had a number of people who were able to go there and exploit the harbor, look at things, look at the artifacts and stuff in the harbor, and they found all kind of big cannons and the rest of it.
Well, that has happened repeatedly on waterfront sites and sites on the western end of Harbor Island, which was Hog Island. And again, anybody kind of knowing the history of that western end of the harbor is to know that during the golden era of the pirates, from the end of the 1600s into the beginning of the 1700s, that is where the pirates would bring the ships that they captured. That's literally, right. They would scuttle them.
That's right.
And they would raid them. They would strip them. They would loot them, and they would loot them of everything, from cannon to wood, everything. So it was a ship boneyard, and so you would think that all around that area there are all types of artifacts from the period. You would expect it, really.
Yeah.
And any number of vessels that would have sunk in the harbor over that period. So every time that harbor's been dredged, every time, okay, there would have been artifacts.
In our lifetime, it happened with twice or three times in our lifetime so far.
I would say in my lifetime, probably at least three times.
Yeah.
But if you think about over the period of the modernization of the harbor, from the time that the cruise ships came. See, I only know this from historical photographs. When cruise ships originally used to come here, they used to be on the other side of the bar.
That's right.
Which is on the other side of Paradise Island.
Absolutely.
And then they dredged the harbor. and they gain access to the harbor. So
First harbor dredging, all the sand and stuff ended up on Fort Charlotte. All them hills and stuff on there, a lot of that was flattened because that was the first part of the dredging. That happened some time back.
Way back.
Then, of course, it happened again, and we saw all the things that happened down with the dredging and the silt and all that kind of stuff being towed away and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, this time here, when they did it this time, we saw all the mounds and stuff that were on the back of what's it called?
Awaki.
Yeah.
Well, they extended Awaki with massive acreage, and then built a mountain on top of Awaki.
Absolutely.
And some people are still wondering where that mountain disappeared to. Because that mountain disappeared, Steve.
Yeah, I know it did.
And that's aggregate.
Yeah.
It has value.
And it just gone.
It's a whole mountain.
Well, they did say we're a corrupt nation in many regards, but I don't know if that had anything to do with it,
Acres.
You think it did have anything to do with it?
Acres. Acres. And again, there's an interesting gentleman in town right now, Mr. Aviv, who is one of the 5, in fact, the head of the Mossad team that went after the terrorists in Munich. There's some interesting people in town, Steve. Interesting. He is actually in town.
Terrorists in Munich. This is Munich, Germany, when they had the Olympic Games.
Yes. The fellow who headed that Mossad team.
He's here.
Oh, yeah.
He must be like, 70 plus?
About 70 plus.
Yeah,
he's in town. He has operations in 38 countries.
My Lord.
He occupies a building next to Trump Tower.
Is that right?
Yeah. And he says,
You're trying to say that all of them is anyhow.
And he says, his job right now, his job and what he's here for, his job right now is to deal with corruption on the international level.
My Lord, stop it.
And he also said, I listened carefully, Steve, he also said that oftentimes he comes to these places and these administrations at first are very excited, about it. And they tell him about all these things these fellas did before.
Yeah.
And they tell him, but this one over there, he did that and he did this, check him. And he says, I got that. Mm-hmm. But when I finish checking him, I can check y'all fellas too. Then they tell him, hey,
take it easy. I understand.
But no, he's here. Mm-hmm. And he said very flatly why he's here. And he's here to assist some persons who invited him here from the private sector to have a deep look at how he could assist us in eradication of corruption.
Say what?
Yes. So
this is the fella from Germany.
Yes, sir.
The Olympic Games in Germany.
Yes, sir.
Where these guys decided that they were going to just go and take people out.
Well, no, they decided that justice was going to be served. And that sometimes it's necessary to go to the extreme measures in order to effect justice. Yeah, I guess you would say that. There's some ways you could say that. Yuval Aviv. I was actually incredibly excited by the discussion that he presented. Mm-hmm. It is a discussion that many of us have been having. It is a discussion that many of us have been having to the point where he ultimately took it. And that when you get to a point, Steve, where people have identified the base and the source problem of why we are about to have an 11-story building on a historical site, okay?
You bring in all kind of other people who will legitimize and tell you this is why it must happen also.
Well, you see, the base reason for the reason that is happening and is catching people by surprise is somewhere there's something untoward. There's been a deal done somehow along the line. Mm-hmm. Okay, and how could that happened without the historical society raising alarm, without the Antiquities Commission.
Everybody must have been involved.
Without the National Trust raising alarm, without all types of persons.
Nobody said a single
raising
thing.
Alarm and saying, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You can't build an 11-story building on Fort Nassau.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been neglectful. Yes, we've been negligent. No, we haven't maintained the site. But at the end of the day, not there. Mm-hmm. You know, that site in particular is a site that we can prove without a question of a doubt, was occupied by pirates, had seen activity from the incursions of the Spanish and the British, and we know that is a real act, and not only occupied by pirates, occupied by Edward Teach himself, occupied by Blackbeard. It was Blackbeard's known regional headquarters, that site. The well there that we managed to save is Blackbeard's well. Okay, so when you have
now you say we saved that. That's the little piece that's on the corner right there.
That's
the little go around the curve. You can see that.
You could see the well with the cut limestone sitting there. That is the only thing we have left. So think about it.
And they almost didn't want to save that.
Okay, think about it. If we, every time over the better part of a century that we dredge the harbor, we still finding artifacts. We're still finding things of value. Imagine...
We don't appreciate history.
Okay, we don't have any appreciation of history, but we're still finding things of value, and we still don't properly monitor those exercises. Okay? So, imagine that to build that building, the first part, even the parking garage, and then to go back across to where they've gone and to excavate their seabed leases, they have been effectively doing an archaeological excavation. Under whose supervision?
Their supervision. They don't really care about it. It doesn't matter to them. And
of course it does.
This is the Bahamas.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Steve, one of the things that I have pictures on because I was so excited. I went to Amsterdam doing business in November, and I was blessed to have my son be able to come over and join me from London. We're walking around this museum in Amsterdam, looking at things, and there we see these things from William of Orange of Nassau. And then we see these things that relate and tie directly straight into our history, right down to muskets and things that would have been on ships. Wow, and we took pictures okay. Wouldn't it be nice that we could have had those items here? And so imagine an archaeological or building being built on an archaeological site that is almost unequaled.
Yeah.
Okay? And we're not there to observe everything that comes out of the ground, to make sure that, everything.
Yeah, see, but the first thing is, John, you've got to have an appreciation that we have no appreciation for history, for things historical. And when I said that, when you said that, yes, they care, I was simply saying to you that, look, man, John, these fellas who've come here from the Far East to come and do business in the Bahamas, and they want to propagate this hotel and do all those kinds of things with the hotel. Their whole business is about, doing something to make a new way and a new day in the Bahamas. That's what they're interested in. They don't give 2 cents about what you say and about they supposed to be looking at this artifacts. That's what our local people are for. That's what the Historical Society and all those people are for. Pirates. And if they sold things out to these unknown people, who could you blame? Steve, that's why we're so ignorant about so many things.
Steve, why I say they care is that if you unearth a sword from the 1600s, that has great value.
Of course.
Maybe you unearth a couple hundred gold coins. This is a pirate camp.
I see your point. I understand you very clearly.
You're not just picking up bits and pieces of pottery. You have no idea. And you're digging deep enough to sink pylons for a hotel that's going up 11 stories. So you are actually excavating that site.
I see your point.
Anyway, with no supervision as far as anybody knows from antiquities, and I would like to know maybe if that is the case.
Well, look, John.
I see, and I would hope, and I'm going to ask him to text me. I see that somebody who was directly associated with antiquities was just trying to call me. Please text me and tell me how aggressively that site was policed, as far as
I understand
the observation.
Well, that would be interesting. Calls. That would be interesting.
Of antiquities coming. from the property. So no, quite frankly, for me, it would not have been the site to see developed by anybody. And it's not to say, and especially when you have a local Bahamian who was prepared to spend tens of millions to develop that same site as a park and leave it as a historical site accessible to the Bahamian people and the tourists alike.
I keep telling you, because the people don't believe that we have an appreciation for history. Who's to be interested in any park? They're ignorant to these kinds of things. That is how the general thinking really is, John. And as a result of that, while you are interested in it, I'm interested in it. We want to share things with our children and so forth and so on. The average person does not appear to be that so interested in these kinds of things. And so the whole thing is, if you could make some deal and obliterate the whole damn thing, do it, because that's what, who's going to stop you? You see the properties you called about, that you said today on this show, that the whole property encompasses, all of the pending old thing and this and you know.
Let's be fair to the PLP. What they agreed to was agreed to in principle by the Ingham administration with the previous owners of that land.
Yes, the Hilton Hotel.
The persons who developed the Hilton Hotel, PRK Capital, that initially owned the British colonial property, which is, and all of that was a part of the Oaks Estate. Okay, so, but as a part of the Oaks Estate, the drumbeat and the former officers of the former Prime Minister, those things were almost fixtures, and nobody was ever moving them. When the Oaks Estate sold to PRK Capital, and their master plan was to do the development of the hotel as was done, but their second phase and third phase included the building of a parking deck and the development of a hotel condominium with some seabed rights. They never got on with that. For numbers of reasons. They had all types of drawings and plans.
But they never did it.
We never did it. I would suggest that what is going there now, what has been designed by the Chinese developers, might be in fact more impressive. But there are so many levels to this. And it's not just to say Chinese. Which Chinese? It's CCA.
Of course. And
so why? Because you can't just generalize. There are all types of Chinese companies even coming out of mainland China, but one is different from that. CCA is the company that was at the time when this was approved, all tangled up in the mess with Bahama.
Bahama, that's correct.
All tangled up in court process.
They were still in the mess just the other day when the band went away and got them to deal with this whole thing in Delaware, was it?
Okay, so there was contentious litigation going on that the government was mixed up in, that this particular company was mixed up in,
CCA,
involving billions of dollars as the primary contractor at Bahama, with $1 billion investor come resident in Mr. and Mrs. Marillion, and 3 or 4 jurisdictions of legal battles going on in the UK, in New York, and in the Bahamas. In the middle of all of that,
Delaware and all that.
In the middle of all of that, this same company gets the right to develop number 1 Bay Street. number one Bay Street.
What a country.
All right. And number 1 Bay Street is in every way the gateway to the Bahamas. And the property itself, like I said, I give some thanks to it, because it is a beautiful entryway now, because here comes the cruise ship. But the first thing they see is number 1 Bay Street. It's going to be the point. All right, it's going to be the point.
It's going to be the
first
point
and the last thing.
CC, the Chinese and everything else. Yes,
that's the first and the last thing that they're going to see. And an 11-story building on the most historic, or one of the most historic sites in the Bahamas, bar none. For me, is nothing that I would have seen.
But John, what's interesting is that we look at the building, and is there anything so spectacular about this building that is being built right now that will just kind of bring about the idea of the Bahamas, plain in plain sight, that this is the Bahamas that you're coming down now. This is the Bahamas. Look at this. Behold, this is who we are. So what does it mean? I don't understand it.
Steve, if you look at, and I've had the opportunity, because again, I've been saying for a long time, Steve, there's so many things that we've been saying it's coming, and people will say, yeah, well, and when you open your eyes, there it is. All right, and because one of the things, the methods of construction they're using is very rapid, it's coming up so quick, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are now talking about it. People didn't even believe that. It's like, well, what is that building? What is that they're doing? It's coming up so quick, and like you say, it's about halfway there. Yeah. So as imposing as it is now, and it has changed the landscape, and it's another one of these landscape change. Bahama has changed the landscape. When they went up 23 stories at Atlantis, there's no place on the northern side of New Providence that you cannot see Atlantis from.
So on that side, they got that on lockdown. On this side, they got this on down.
Okay, so you could be way down in the Boozian Hill and see Bahama.
Yes, sir.
Clear as bell. All right. So these are very dominant landscape changes. And so the harbor front is changed forever. And it is changed forever that is going to introduce a new reality. So let's go to different levels of it. Okay, not just the building. And aesthetically, when you look at how they intend to have the building aesthetically kind of appears, it will remind you of a cruise ship when they're finished with it from a distance.
I see.
All right. So what have we become?
Cruise destination.
All right, and so
that's what we want, I suppose.
Okay, so that's what we are now reflecting a big ship destination, a nautical frontage, and we do have a nautical tradition. We do have, and there is something to be saying to be the world's #1 cruise destination. But do we own it?
Well,
that's what it comes. See, but that's what it comes back to.
Yeah, we don't own it.
There's no problem being the world's #1 cruise. We love that, but we want to own the world's #1 cruise destination. There are some things afoot. Some of us are trying to do some things to be able to be participating in what is going on in the Steve, there's a wonderful, that's why I'm of two minds. There's a wonderful renaissance going on. There's a wonderful rethinking, and it's been going on for years, but it's been talk. Every administration, EDAR, Downtown Redevelopment Association, all of these things for decades, okay? But nothing has happened.
John, listen here. I hear what you're saying, and I feel you. I understand what you're saying. On one side of it, we've got, and Flowers has to be complimented, I believe, because, he's willing to say, okay, well, this is what it is. This seemed to be better than what I was going to do with the whole property.
He doesn't say that.
Well, I know he doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that.
It gives that reflection.
No, he doesn't say that. He says progress is progress. And that if progress includes the expansion of opportunity for Bahamians.
Yeah. So Bahamians are going to be able to be prosperous in this whole exercise.
Then who am I to step in the way of it?
I understand that.
That's a different statement.
Yeah, but I suppose. And then when we look at the whole matter, that what Flowers is saying is that at the end of the day, Flowers is believing that good things will happen for Bahamians in the Bahamas with this particular project.
I think that's his hope. But at the end of the day, do I think he believes? I can't speak for him. Do I believe his intended use would have been better? A park?
You believe so, right?
I believe so.
Well, let's look at this whole thing, because really the truth is there's so many things that's happening right here. First and foremost, most Bahamians see this whole thing as his property being swallowed up. Some people don't see that. Perhaps even Flowers don't see that. His property being swallowed up with this big shadow that's going to be over Bay Street or over West Bay Street, and it's going to go for a little while because where that beach was. That's called Junkanoo Beach, eh?
Yes.
Junkanoo Beach is now going to be, is that still going to be there, or is that a thing of the past in a way? Because really, I don't know how close the thing has come so approximate right to the heart of Junkanoo Beach. I don't know if anybody's going to be on Junkanoo Beach in that kind of atmosphere that they now have today.
In the interest of fairness, I can't over-disclose, but the answer to your question is that Junkanoo Beach will be there. Junkanoo Beach will be there. Junkanoo Beach will be there.
New standards, new policies, new fencing, and all that kind of stuff.
Always public, fully public, 100% public, 100% Bahamian.
Junkanoo Beach.
Yes, sir.
And
as represented, redeveloped, and that those persons who are there, every consideration is in place through the Ministry of Tourism to ensure that they are secure.
You were able to get a rendition, a look at what the facade of the whole thing will look like from out in the sea.
Of the point.
Yeah, the point.
Oh yes, I've seen models of that. I mean, anybody could go and see that. They have models of that in the lobby of the British.
Yeah, I saw it. That's right. Yep. That's why I saw it.
Yeah.
So that means then that we are going to be really looking at this place as the frontier. This is the whole new place of us being in the Bahamas. This is the new cruise port destination for this part of the world. This is what it's going to be like.
Steve, I would dare to say, without, like I say, overstepping, that whatever happens with Junkanoo Beach, add in the point, add in the acceptance of any of the plans for the redevelopment of the cruise port itself, which is now out to tender for public-private management partnership. Add on my awareness of other private projects east of John Alfred, east of East Street. Other private proposals, some of which have been actually published for massive installations.
I saw one just the other day. I saw Ed Fields in the newspapers talking about all this kind of like a redevelopment of Bay Street or some buildings in the area. He didn't specifically say Bay Street, but I know he was talking about that because I think he's the chairman of the whole thing. But when you look at this, I believe what's going to happen here, John, is that there are a number of people in the Bahamas who are looking forward to a number of things happening to expand their buildings, to make huge buildings like what the Point has.
Well, if you're going to allow a foreign investor to come in and build 11 stories on the harbor,
why shouldn't you let the Bahamians do it?
I think you've opened the door to allow Bahamians to do it, and
which will further change the facade of Bay Street and
like I said,
surrounding areas.
When I was going there, when I say it's a landscape changer.
Yeah.
Its presence alone will now change the landscape of downtown Nassau. And we will now have a whole new discussion become relevant. And things like air rights. Okay, all of a sudden now we have a limited amount of real estate, and this has always been the problem in New Providence. There's a limited amount of real estate downtown as far as a footprint. There's an endless amount of real estate if you allow persons to go up.
Yeah. And
there has always been a restriction on the height. No more than 6 stories, with the British colonial being the marquee. And for most buildings, it's really 3 stories. I would suggest that city ordinance is going to change. It's going to be very hard to say that is an exception to the rule. Very hard. And there's the whole eastern end of Bay Street that will be under massive redevelopment.
Of course. But we expect that too.
But under local ownership. And so that's a different story there again. And that's a different level of access to.
But I can see the players right now in the field on the business pages of the newspapers every day hinting at these things, these very things that you're talking about.
It's no hint.
That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's not hinting. Well, some of these things have been published. And I think, Steve, if you add it all up, including the point and including The numbers, every number I've seen being thrown around for the redevelopment of the port is $150+ million. Further east is $220 million. This way, that way.
Chunks.
There's potentially $500 million in redevelopment investment coming to downtown Nassau. It's needed. Every dollar of that is needed to return Nassau to the jewel in the crown. And it would be, again, the jewel in the crown. Something has to come next. We can't stay where we are. The town is stink and stagnant, literally stink and stagnant. And so we have to position what comes next. So it is good that we open a discussion so that everybody could be involved in the discussion. Everybody could be, we got all colors of landowners on Bay Street now. And things we always did. The Adley building been there a minute. Okay? So it's not just to say, oh, the Bay Street boys, the white boys own Bay. No, there have been black people owning land on Bay Street from time immemorial because there have been black pirates on them ships from day dot. All right? So there are all types of, in every character sitting out there. There are Bahamians with massive opportunity to now look at how are we going to redevelop our city center. What are we going to do? Are we going to completely change the character? Are we going to go up colonial style? What are we going to do?
Well, I believe that we're going to be a hodgepodge of different styles. I don't know.
It can't be that.
Well, why can't it be that?
No, because we have to sit down and plan it. All right?
I hear what you're saying.
There's something called city ordinance. You see, one of the things that we, in running away from local governance and saying that we want to keep all of this centralized control, and it means that then you better then think of everything. Okay, so if you're going, so that means that the Ministry of Works has to come through town planning and sit down and master plan the city center, the old district of Nassau, right down to exactly how every one of those buildings is supposed to look, the character is supposed to reflect. You can't just go into the old quarter of London and you can't even choose the color paint on your building. They will tell you what the historical color of that building is.
We gotta do things like that?
Yes, we have to. And we need to bring in local governance so that it doesn't have to be all mashed up and trying to be run through central governance, which can't do it. So you need a city mayor, effectively, all right? And you need that to happen in the city of Nassau, where there is a plan.
And you think all this is going to happen at this particular time, at this juncture, with the developments that's going on now?
Well, yes, in its own way, because the stakeholders this moment didn't just come in time. The stakeholders have been muscling around and doing around for some time. So you have in Nassau the Downtown Development Association that's been around for the better part of 10+ years. And they have been working through successive administrations towards implementing a systemic plan. So you see the public things being put in Broadway Square, being put in front of where Smugglers is, and you see in plan plots going up. This is actually all according to a plan, all right? And they keep having to push with the successive administrations. They have other little areas they're going to try to get to be pedestrian zones only. So they've been working. Then you have this pull up on top of West Hill Street, the Charleston Association. And you see they had a festival the other day where they closed West Hill Street. And it's up by Grey Cliff. And that the Grey Cliff has been moving to renovate those buildings across the road one by one. And the National Park. You have the National Art Gallery that's coming from their corner and spreading up, coming from the other way. And so you see them creating their amphitheater and taking care of the corner behind them. You see John Watkins doing some things around the Nassau Street. That is actually all country will have the attitude and will adopt the attitude that we tell them they must do in order to gain entry. So we must first say that this is what we want and this is what we are doing. And this is what you have to do in order to be a part of this crew. They, for all of that being the massive land, the biggest landholder right now, because they own number 1 Bay Street, the British colonial properties, they are but one stakeholder. They are big, but they only have one chair on the Downtown Development Association. They only have one chair on the Bay Street Business Owners Association. One chair. Okay. So if they join the Charleston Association, they have one chair on that board. Okay. So, and they want to be a part of their neighborhood. Don't mind how big they are. They don't want to be the hated one in the neighborhood. They are talking to all of their neighbors and trying to make sure, hey, I don't want to cause, offense, really, we, yeah, we here, yeah, we big, but we don't need to be fighting. So when you look at that, and how does it tie in? From what I understand, Steve, all of these discussions are tying in because all of the stakeholders on the waterfront, they've managed to come together and agree. We're going to run a boardwalk from Paradise Island Bridge.
Tell me about this boardwalk now.
To Jonquil Beach. And to do that involved any number of private landowners, when you think about it, because the quote-unquote shipping interest Bay Street boys still own all of that land east of East Street, the old docklands. So they all had to agree to tie in the boardwalk. Government owns some pieces in between, quite a few pieces, where all of government publications is, and the old office of BAIC. That's government owns some chunks in there. They had to agree, and CCA owns a good piece. They had to agree, and government owns all of Woods Rogers. So all of that has been agreed, and along bits and pieces, some of that boardwalk is already in place. With the redevelopment, and what I don't know exactly what's going to happen, because there are stakeholders, but they're all at the table. And them being at the table, they're also aware that they're going to need somebody to manage all of this, some level of governance. And so they're calling for government, you're going to have to be involved in this. So this has to be a public-private partnership. There are all these stakeholders, all of these people with their plans and desires. And so somebody's going to have to come in and say, okay, here's the city manager of Nassau, and here's what how much can we go up? Not everybody's going to, and set a plan. This is not going to be hodgepodge, all right? And already it's not hodgepodge, because already there's a certain amount of unity if they got to agree to build this boardwalk. And nobody is going to want me to be, I'm going to go and invest for my greatest return. I own this piece of land here. You own this one next year. And I have no control over what you put on yours. I rather both of us subject to what we have to do. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand you clearly.
Because what you put next door might kill my investment. You're going to put an old chicken shack next door.
So it's got to be the right collaboration and everything else.
So there has to be a general consensus. And that is good for business. There has to be a certain standard. There's a code that we're all going to, yes, we're going to agree this code?
Yeah.
Yes. All right? We ain't going to build, you're not going to build a steel.
So the time has come now for us to really get some things going in a real direction now on the overall plan for Bay Street and the surrounding area. That's what you're saying.
There have been so many plans that they are able now, every administration over the past 15 years has developed a plan. So there are so many sets of stakeholders who've been looking at those plans. But at the end of the day, it's about business, and it's about maximizing, while not, and at the same time, creating an identity. Because this is Nassau is about to be rebranded, or finally branded. And so it's time for persons who are concerned, persons who have a voice, such as yours, to become involved in the discussion. To say, look, we like our sleepy little fishing village. We want that to be only one building at 11 stories. If your fellas think we don't want that, but at the end of the day, they say, is this your land? Do you own this land?
Very true. Very true.
And is this your return on investment? What are you going to do, and why are you going to stop me? How many people are going to be employed? Building going up to this level. We are actually Bahamians. We actually own this land. We will actually use Bahamian companies.
There's really no stopping them. I mean, they can do what they have to do anyway.
It's coming.
They own the land. That's just what it is.
It's coming. It's coming, and
so this whole thing about what's happening with the point here, I mean, this falls away when it comes to the big overall picture. Nobody's really going to be paying any attention. This whole thing is that it's good, it's happening, it's going to provide a lot of jobs for a lot of people, and Bahamians are going to prosper and
you see,
like.
I'll make this statement, which might be a little unfair, but I'll say it because the stakeholders, those who would normally be in the position to raise opposition and get a lot of attention in raising the opposition. And I remember what I said to you at the time. I said, Steve, deal with this now. Deal with this now. And deal with it aggressively. Get the people moving on this topic, because by next week there'll be something else. And they're going to be saying, right now, you have the ability to stop this before it comes out the ground. We can stop this now. But once this comes out the ground,
that's it.
And I was poking at you and I was saying, Steve, they're gonna be laughing at you, saying you're spitting in the breeze on this one now, because this one is going to run.
It's going to happen.
And why it's going to run is that those special interests who would normally resist something like this,
they love that. They're embracing this now because this will play into what they want to happen for them.
It's a long game.
Yeah.
They want to maximize the airspace. They want to maximize the real estate that's available when you go up. All of the stakeholders. You see those fellas with number one Cable Beach? Even in the face of a prime minister living across the road who was trying to stop it. But they said, man, look, all these buildings around here next door is 10 stories, 11 stories. We want to go up. And ultimately, they're going up. And you talk about flowers, worrying about Mr. Christie's house is now in the shadow of a giant building.
So gone for that.
But the Bahamians, that make that all right, Steve? That make it all right? It's Bahamians who build up over him.
Yeah, it's Bahamians who build up over him.
That make it all right? No.
It's just one of these things. It's
okay.
You know, nothing will ever be all right with things like that. But I mean, you know, I suppose if we want to go and do the things that we need to do, to expand our buildings, to capitalize on our properties and make investments to be a big thing in the Bahamas, and we can all be working from it. I suppose that is a plan. That's a good plan, and there's nothing much that we can do about that.
I don't know. I am of two minds. There are sections of Nassau that I would never want to see that happening. The historical quarters of New Providence.
So you got to stop it now.
I would never want to see the historical quarters of New Providence, which really start at about Eastern Cemetery. That used to be Eastern Cemetery, which is across from the new bridge. Used to be so far out of town that's where they buried the malaria and the polio and the yellow fever, the plague victims.
Right.
That was so far out of town.
This is right across from Baja, the Eastern
Right across from Baja. Okay, and the
graves are still on top, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you could see sometimes on them, died from plague.
Yeah.
All right. So no, I wouldn't want, and then for argument's sake, sometimes I say, okay, let's leave it at Victoria Avenue, but then again, there on Dowswell Street, there are some old buildings, historical significance. Let's come all the way back to Charlestown. Okay, Charlestown is the original name for the old quarter of New Providence, West Hill Street to East Hill Street, no further. With East Street being the boundary. Even if you just leave it at that, we have to maintain some part of New Providence as it was historically. as it was when New Providence was first founded, from the new modern New Providence, when I'm talking from the golden era of pirates, right before Woodes Rogers came, when these streets were limestone streets. That was one of the things known for New Providence. So they weren't cobblestone, they were limestone, they were white. All right, and so that area is historical, like the historical chapters of St. Augustine's in Florida, or Charleston in North Carolina, where it's largely pedestrian. We need to preserve that, and then we need to market it and to sell it and to make it a part of what I call historical tourism. One of the flagships of such a product would have been Fort Nassau. That's gone forever. It can't be that there are others gone forever. And when I say Fort Nassau is gone forever, it is gone forever. When you talk about those born and unborn Bahamians, well, those unborn Bahamians, we failed on that one, Steve. And that was one of the things I was saying to you. Steve, I'm going to put this back on you. I said I was going to do it to you. We failed them on this one. That is gone forever under an 11-story foreign-owned building.
My Lord.
Chapter close.
Blame it on us.
Chapter close.
And John Boswick is a part of it as well, because I'm not going to just let him put that on me. He's a part of it as well, because we did talk about it. We did, in fact, talk.
Steve, you had the letter. I didn't have the letter.
Yeah, well, I had the letter.
Steve.
The letter is in my files there somewhere. This is when they were talking about that they wanted to go to the PLP and say, this is the things that we want. These are the demands. We want these things to happen now.
Forcing the government's hand.
Forcing the government hands. The PLP, they were forcing them. This is what we want now. We want this seabed. We want that seabed. This is what we want. And yeah, great politics was being played at the time.
Power play
in politics. And I was saying, okay, let's see how this thing is going to pan out. I was thinking that with the whole change of government and all this kinds of stuff that eventually took place, I was thinking that a lot of these things would be reversed. After all, is your Free National Movement government at the time would have been the ones who always stop, review, and cancel things. But that didn't happen in this particular case.
They cut plenty ribbons.
15 behind the hour of 6 o'clock in the afternoon. This is Hard Copy. We've been talking a little bit about the port today, about the point today, and we have been looking at it for the fact that Mr. Flowers' building has been swallowed up under this whole shadow of the point, and it's now 11. It's going to be 11 stories high. It's now 6 or 7 stories high, and it's going up, and there's nothing that we can do about it anymore. It's one of those things that we, as John said, we missed out on that one, and we've got to not only look at it in hindsight and say, boy, we must not miss any more of these in the future. Right, John?
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, you can call me today at telephone numbers 325-023-516, 325-024-2043, and 325-025-2053. Or you can also WhatsApp me today by text at 376-9234. I know sometimes these things could seem to be a little boring, but it's just good to know that we have some people out there who want to say things and do things, and you can still have your say. For instance, you need to say to us today, how do you feel about this point, the point that's now being built? What do you think of it? I mean, what do you make of it? That kind of stuff. You can still have your say,
You know, a lot of people don't know, because we lose rights. People don't know that there is a fort at Old Fort. People don't even know that.
I know that. I know there's a fort at Old Fort.
Yeah, but you don't have a right to.
Fort.
You don't have a right. You can't go to it.
I know we can.
That's historical. But it's no longer.
But that's been happening for umpteen years in the Bahamas.
Exactly.
In Fort Winton, all those.
Okay.
We have those things.
Okay. So Blackbeard's Tower is now locked off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we allowed this, and I can't figure out why it's still locked off.
We say, the people who want to invest, they're the ones with money, and if that's what they're going to do, all of these things, camp it down, all those things. Those areas, all the legacy of all of the Lucayne Indians and the rest of it, I mean, that's all entrapped inside there. We can't get to see that. So what are we talking about? And I believe because this whole place is a pirate town, what do we do? What do? We don't have no rules and say these are the rules of engagement. This is how we go about things. No, the people in the Historical Society, the people in the National Trust, they're not interested in those things. They're interested in what they are interested in. They're saying, look, you can't go and get no grouper because this is what we think. This is what we believe. There are more things than those things that are very important to the Bahamian.
There are condos on top of the caves.
You forgot that, eh?
We almost lost the Clifton Heritage.
Okay. That's one we won. Now let's put it fair.
I said, but we almost lost that.
Yeah, but we won that one.
Okay.
When we put our voice on the radio, look here, we can mash this one up. We fixed that. So we won and won. If you really want to look at it that way, we won and won.
When did the tide turn on that one? When certain fellas came from... Anyway, I'll leave it alone.
No, tell me.
Didn't some fellas came from out of town?
Yeah. You're talking about my good friends, John F. Kennedy, yeah?
Yeah, Steve.
No, who are you talking about?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
You had to bring in the Kennedys to win that one.
Yeah, you had to...
But look.
I was right in the middle of things.
But you had to bring in the Kennedys.
So was JT. JT and all of them were right in the middle of it.
But...
So we won one and we lost one.
We won that. We won that by importing help again.
Yes.
Can we win one ourselves?
Well, hold on now, John. That's a little bit ambitious, you know. We've got calls of I have to be frank with you sometimes, you know. That's a little bit ambitious. Let's go to the telephone lines and take some calls. 20 behind the hour of 6 o'clock now. Hot coffee, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. Please allow me to do one thing on such a great show. You show the Bahamian people. Hey, big brother.
I can't hear you.
Hey, big brother in studio.
How you doing, sir?
You doing?
Good, man. Really good.
On point. You guys are on point. Steve, this show be as successful as it can be for the next remaining weeks left in this entire year. Unless, yes, I come in agreement with the big brothers who's on studio, especially Mr. Brother Oral Ellis, Pastor Brother Oral Ellis. I am willing to say, Steve, 4 weeks, I think, 5 weeks been gone out of the year, and I'm ready and prepared for every week that has passed to give an opportunity to anyone listening to your station over the years and who is encouraged daily and who heart aches when Friday comes. Okay, because now we have to wait for whole 2 days before things come back on. I'm offering any one of y'all out there, whether you're in the Bahamas or any part of the face of the earth, I'm offering you on behalf of Mr. Steve McKinney's Hard Coffee Show at 107.5, an opportunity to purchase a cultural art image. Now, Mr. John Cox already said, minimum I can sell it for $600. I am going to go with that same figure, and every art, and I'm going to provide an art for every week in this year, and every week in the next year, for the next 3 years. Listen now, and if you purchase this art, Mr. Steve McKinney will get $200 out of every art, and then out of whatever money left, each art, it will be replaced. And I'm telling you all, at the end of 3 years, this man, this show, this station, this company will be able to say, there goes a gallery. See, it's intelligence. Almighty God is
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Amos.
Steve, I'm so serious with this.
I hear you.
I'm so serious with this.
Put it all together. Let's make it happen.
But Steve, I already have 7 weeks to prove to them. 5 weeks been gone, and I will bring those 5 artistic expressions to you tomorrow.
Very good.
If no later than Monday morning, they will be there by the time you reach the wake.
I appreciate it.
Telling the Bahamian people, this is how much I depend on the opportunity to express my fundamental rights and freedom of the...
I can't blame you, my brother. I can't blame you.
Guaranteed. My brother in studio, I call your name on another station today. I ain't going back there. You're going to hear it later. But I want the world to know this is how we're going to start.
Absolutely.
I want everyone from the line that took them to bring people to this country in 1492, whatever line they use. I want the world to hear on this station, we shall return this country back to Almighty God.
Praise the Lord.
People shall be the kings and the prince and the princess and the queens that the scripture said we are. And let me tell you, all I need is the station on my side. With the Bahamian people blessed, y'all will live better than the people in Saudi Arabia, better than any nation on the face of the
I hear you, Amos. I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you've said and all that you're doing and about to do. And John, yes, I don't know if you know that we had to make sure that people understood that we had to remove a show off the air, the last word, because there's been very little sponsorship. Not only from that point, it's just we believe, we know for a fact that certain people in the government has us hostage on a couple of things. And so as a result of that, we've had to do some things and try to find a way to maneuver and make things happen for the station the big way. And one of the things that came in the threat was the fact of hard copy also being on the show all these years. Yeah, that's a reality. That's a reality in the Bahamas these days. Now, I don't know if that's happening with a number of the other stations, but I know that in our case, we know that these shows are very, very powerful, and they're very empowering. And so, we have to make some certain moves to make sure that we can have the monies to make sure that these shows goes on. You see? And so one of the things that we did yesterday was to go offer our big account number, the banking account number for the McKinney Media Group. The bank number is BOB, Bahamas, Bank of the Bahamas. The account number is 135-000-2313. And we've gotten tremendous response from overnight to the day. People have been responding like mad, and they've been doing things for the station to keep things going. And so I'm very, very impressed about that. That's why I'm telling you, I'm very impressed about that. And we are trying to keep the shows on. The Last Word and Hard Copy, these shows are very, very expensive to run, as you would know. And it's not an easy thing. So if people want to still give and be a part of what we're doing, we've just launched it yesterday. You can visit the Gibbs Lane Studios at Fort Charlotte, next to St. Agnes Cemetery. The blue and white building is called the Wee Sands House, or you can call us at 325-023506, and we'll be happy and grateful to accept your donations of any sort, any kind. And we thank you for your kind donations, because sometimes people say, boy, you have had to done that. Yeah, we had to do that because we want to make sure that this thing continues to go. And there's no support, none, absolutely none, no support coming from the government of the Bahamas. And it's a crying shame, because we've been saying all along that you must treat us like anybody else. You can't treat one this way. There's been no support from them. And so as a result of that, we've got to do what we have to do to keep things going well. And so that's what we've been doing. And the response has been overwhelming. Really, it has.
Well, Steve,
this is news to you, eh?
Yeah, that is news, but somehow not surprising. My son asked me why I had Born Free Nationalist tattooed across my stomach, which I do. Born Free Nationalist. And I said, because at some point,
I heard Donald Trump use that the other night. Born Free.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I'm sure that was him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. But,
not to mess with your thought. Just go on.
It is to remind oneself that freedom is not free. And that freedom is a very, very expensive and costly commodity.
Tell me about it.
And that there are days that come by when one might consider compromise.
Never compromise.
That's the next thing that I'm going to have tattooed is no compromise.
Yeah,
and
compromise.
There has been no compromise. There will be no compromise.
There's no way.
But in a country...
It's free, simple, easy. and without any kind of problematic, no kind of problem. We just want to do things the right way. We don't want to lead on no side. We just want to be here to present things to the Bahamian public all the time.
The speaking truth to power is a dangerous occupation, a very, very dangerous occupation, and it's dangerous anywhere, much less in a country where vindictiveness, pettiness, spitefulness.
Boy, tell me about it.
Are characteristics of leadership.
You said that correctly now. Characteristics of leadership. That's what the new leadership thing is all about nowadays.
That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm saying it's a new modern thing that we have just learned to say it's how we see the leadership these days.
Well, I am sadly a product of one who grew up in the briar patch. I grew up under the father of the nation when he had become vindictive, petty, spiteful, victimization. But that characteristic from his time in the 70s, right down to Donald Trump today, a petty man, spiteful, vindictive to hell. He's the leader of the free world. Okay? And so, I even jump countries to say the most powerful man in the world fits that character at present.
My Lord.
So, freedom isn't free. I am not surprised at all that the McKinney Media Group is on the list of those to be starved. And
they say that starved. Don't give him nothing. That's what they say. They don't say nothing. Don't give him nothing.
None.
None.
Don't give him none.
But we'll still survive.
But you will survive.
In spite of it all.
You will survive. Yeah. And the bend or break. You see this?
It's your
shield. Bend or break.
And Yahweh is your ceiling. Great reward.
This I bloody your nose. You see, every one of them has had something similar to say along the line. So
we will not be deterred though.
The flipping of the finger. Okay,
kind of stuff.
All of this kind of stuff. But the truth is, this particular administration, I thought, Steve, they would be very happy to embrace the McKinney Media Group, because the blows that you put on the former administration, whether you meant to or not, truth was truth. And you entertained persons such as myself,
and me,
who I couldn't sit down quick enough to throw blows on them.
Amen.
And so,
Amen.
This administration benefited.
Yeah, they did.
Greatly. And through all of the blows that you allowed persons to come on the show and throw, the former administration still had government-sponsored shows throughout that whole period.
Isn't that amazing?
As you say that, I'm thinking about it.
The government of the Bahamas back then, the PLP government.
The PLP.
Let me tell you, they made sure that they treated me fairly. They made sure that when it was a bid out, I got the bid. If I won it, that was fine. If I didn't win it, that was fine too. But the point is, they didn't limit things like how these particular fellas in the Free National Movement is doing now. They're limiting things. That's what they're doing. They decide that no, nothing for him. Believe it or not, that's actually happening in the Bahamas today. In 2019, that's what's happening in the Bahamas today. Nothing for him. Some group of fellas them who are around the table, perhaps at cabinet or at the level next to it, they're saying no, nothing for him, and that's what this country's come to. So you can't even compete in a jurisdiction where all the radio stations are competing and you're just a part of it, and whatever happened, it's okay. No, sir. They're telling you no.
And
we're gonna block that one. We're gonna block this one. And that's just happening to me, friends. That's happening to a number of people in our country. But nobody knows, because nobody is bold like me to get up and say, this is what is happening to me. They're trying to shoot me in the corner. I'm not gonna let them do that. Help me. They got my house on fire. Listen to me. I'm gonna say that. And they know that. And so that's why I said to you all yesterday when the preachers were on that this is what the cry was. And yes, and people responded. I am so very happy and very, very satisfied, very full of gratitude that people responded, and they came with their $1 bills, their $10 bills, their $20 bills. They came with their $5 bills, and we accepted it. You know why? Because we need to be here to do the mission. that we were required to do. And we believe in that mission. And that is simply to bring you the information all the time. Morning, noon, or night. We are here to do that for you. Amen. And so it costs money. And Amen. That's what we were saying yesterday. These things cost money. And sometimes we're able to carry the whole thing without a cost at all. Sometimes we're able to do it and there's no cost at all. But the point is, because of the sanctions that they've taken on us, it's not been an easy road, and so I hope that you all understand that, and that we're not about just doing things to feel the glory and say, hey, that's one. No, we're doing things because we believe that this has to be done, and somehow we've got to keep an eye on them fellas in town. Them fellas in town who are doing foolishness, we got to keep an eye on them, and whenever they fool around and they get too outrageous, we've got to stop them in their tracks and say, this is what they're doing. Pay attention.
I don't know, Steve. I would think that persons such as yourself should be supported across the board. And criticism is good, you know.
Of course it is.
Criticism is a good thing, and criticism keeps you humble and keeps you focused. And should be seen as best as it can be to be constructive. I find that sad and disturbing, but again, not surprising. There are persons, you'll be surprised how high up people are being victimized and have been victimized throughout the history of this Bahamas.
That's right.
You know, you don't think that there are people on Bay Street who get victimized, that there are white Bay Street white knights who get victimized.
Of course.
That may sound weird, but if they're on the wrong side of a government, everything they try to do is frustrated. And you see, we have to get beyond that. We have to get so far beyond an administration even being so concerned.
Yes.
All right.
Why would they be so concerned? If this is a free country and people are having the right to express themselves, as is the case in normal situations, why would you be so overly concerned that you're going to do things that try to take sanctions against others? That is not the Christian thing to do. I mean, you know, why would you be doing those kinds of things? And then on top of that, you're being dishonest about so many things, and you're frigging up this country because of your dishonesty. I mean, you know, there's something wrong about that.
This comes to another conversation I had today, and I mentioned quickly, but you see, beyond governments and administrations that have means to frustrate and or to promote, we need to get beyond the point in this country where whether the government supports you or not makes a difference. And the
going global,
listening to you and supporting you, there are many people who own businesses. Many people. This is a business. This is a radio station. There's simple ways in which they can step aside and step across to support the McKinney Group. Simply advertise on the group.
That's all. Advertise. We work for the money.
You're listening. You're a business owner. You're listening. That means that there are other people and other business owners listening who might need your services in particular. Advertise and support these people. And this is one of the things that I've said to persons before. It's one thing to come and shake hands and say, man, I support you. You talk so strong and you're a freedom fighter. And you kind of
look. Put your money where your mouth is in many cases. That's what it is.
All right. You know, see, I'm also an attorney. And so the level of support, you have to support these people who are out there speaking truth to power. Whoever it is speaking truth to power, you have to understand that person is putting themselves, their life, their liberty at risk. Whoever that person is, don't make the assumption that Steve McKinney is out there.
They'll be okay.
And he's because he's big and strong, boy Steve. how many blows, no matter how strong the individual is, how many blows can they take? And it seems to be the game, almost a game of counting blows.
George, you're so right.
Okay?
You're so right.
And Bahamian said, boy, he can take blows.
Boy, he can take a blow. Boy.
He can take
that one, boy, he can take a blow.
And I'm guilty of it. Honest to Christ. You know, when we was small and so getting the beating, everybody going to run around the corner. You're going to watch him get that cut up. Yeah. And everybody sit down on the wall and kill themselves laughing. Yeah. And they hope he catch it on the porch. But we can't be that way in society.
We've got
we can't be that way in society.
You gotta be your brother's keeper.
Again,
your brother and sister's keeper. Be family.
Incident, somebody being attacked with a cutlass.
Oh my Lord!
And somebody is recording this and saying, "For Christ's sake, call the police! Somebody stop him! Somebody stop him!" We have to be a society that doesn't stand by and watch anybody get cut down.
Yeah.
Amen.
And talking about all those things, it reminds me of the story with the people who they found a couple more bodies today, 32 of them now. They said,
Christ Almighty.
You know, I mean, why can't our
numbers like 65?
Yeah, but we understand from the fellow who was there, who went to the scene, a boat captain. Okay, he was saying that there had to have been 96 plus people on the boat, and I hear these little numbers that we've been playing with. But you know, any boat come here from Cape Haitian down here in the Bahamas with 26 and 36 people? No, you got to be kidding. They come with at least 200 people.
No, not less than 100.
You see, so when you're looking at these things, you got to be practical. You've got to be sensible in your minds, because every day now they're going to have people popping up out the water, another body pop up, that kind of stuff. And it happened today. 2 more bodies popped up. So it moved from 26 to 25 to 28 to 20. Now it's 32. So the point what I'm making is that I want to see our government do much better in this particular case. Not only our government, but the Haitian government as well. We've got to also call in CARICOM and say, look, these are some situations that we have. It's out of control. We need your help.
Steve,
I mean, what's going on with this?
We don't need their help.
Okay. I'm open-minded.
We need to help ourselves. And that is a tragedy. And I've been watching that. That is a human tragedy.
It is.
And I watch a lot of Al Jazeera for world news. It's probably the only thing I watch.
I watch that too.
Okay. And you look around Al Jazeera and you see this bridge collapsed in Italy and 45 people died, and they're still talking about that 6 months later. Okay? Because now they're tearing down the bridge and they're going to repair the bridge. 45 people died. 45 people died. That's a big number of people to die at any one time anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Even if it's just a bridge collapse.
Very true, very true.
This ferry capsized over here, 25 people died. That boating accident, that is a serious thing.
It is.
Tell me about it.
How could you
60 plus people,
allow
maybe
your
100 plus
people to die around you and
That's right.
do not be concerned? Extremely concerned.
You're talking about a boat that comes down here
have
in the
to be
Bahamas,
your
trying
neighbor
to get away
keeper.
from us, not
You
get away
have
from the
to look
authorities, but
after your neighbor.
trying to make their way to a different part of the country or a different country, and they hit a rock.